Emini Playbook 7-minute market recap, October 13th, 2025. We are doing an analysis of today's activity, Monday, Columbus holiday for some. However, the markets were open today. Looking at the market mood, starting with the daily chart, examining the activity occurring as a result of the announcement on Friday. So we are following up on that activity. So we'll keep this open because today was a bit of an interesting day because we are making an analysis of the activity of the market. So, of the 7 moods that we have a challenge because today marks the continuation of Friday's activity. Again, Friday we have the big announcement occurring and the issue with the market going into a downward spiral as a result of the breakdown in the negotiations between the United States and China. So the follow up coming this Monday, and again, that announcement was a random announcement. It was not a scheduled activity. It was something that came up just as a statement that was being made. So the markets were surprised, and the initial shock of the market was seen in the downward activity. So the question becomes, are we then going to enter into another phase of market activity? We have the upward trend that is happening from April all the way up until last Thursday. Does this trend continue, or do we go into a trend pause? There are occasions where we would go from a trend upward directly into a trend downward without touching a trend pause, and we would go directly into a reversal. So the question becomes, would that be the activity of today? So the choices are defined within the daily activity. So as there is the potential for downward behavior, it becomes a decision of the market makers. And today's activity showed a bit of indecision. So it was possible to be on the fence today in terms of the daily activity. So going into the actual 3-minute chart and looking at today's activity, we see a bit of choppiness starting with the open at 9:30. So we go into sideways behavior, and there's the possibility that the market would continue with that trend, being that there were dynamics in play before the announcement that happened on Friday. It is possible that the traders would continue with the dynamics that were occurring as we were going into that upward trend. So the announcement on Friday could very well be seen as a anomaly and a random event that gave some emotion to the market to the downside, but definitely not enough of a dynamic to have a change in direction from what we were seeing within the last months of activity. So today showed as choppy behavior. However, we did get a bit of choppiness with a suggestion that the continuation to the downside would not continue. So the possibility of going into a trend reversal, not very strong in light of the activity for today. And then there is also a chance of a trend continuation, with this announcement being a brief interruption in a trend that was very well established and very well defined. So relying on intraday tools today definitely gave us an indication of whether or not there would be continued activity. Looking at the advancers versus decliners, we see that there was pretty much mute activity, and the market itself went into a area of indecision. So we will rely on the intraday tools again as we enter into the Tuesday's trading tomorrow. We're looking at the possibility of the trend continuing. So In a nutshell, very interesting day, very choppy, very difficult to predict the Bulls or the Bears being in control. However, there is the sentiment and the chance that the continuation would occur. And if it does, we definitely would be looking at a bunch of ground to catch up to where the market was as it entered into that announcement. We see this big candle here, which was Friday's announcement, and then today's activity, we get a green candle letting us know that that downward trend is not probable to continue. We have a channel that we are watching as we're going into the trading for this week. This channel here, from this low to this low to this low, gives a very definitive line. So for that line to have the possibility of being broken, that would give us an indication of a trend reversal. If that line continues to hold, as we saw with today's activity, we can have great confidence that that would continue as it has occurred, and there will be a great amount of opportunity for the upside going into the next day's trading. Hope everyone traded well, safely, relying on intraday tools, and we're looking forward to tomorrow's trading activity.